Welcome back to Barbagallo Raceway, gearing up for race 2. But first up, one of the new components of our shows this year, KFC Zinger is the official burger of V8 Supercars and giving you the chance to have your say on any hot topic in V8 Supercar racing. And we're pleased to say that round 2 winner is Anthony Sullivan from Harris Park in New South Wales. Anthony's Zinger hot topic for Neil is, should pit lane be closed for the compulsory pit stop during the safety car periods? What do you reckon, Crompo?
It's a great question, and it's one that is raised from time to time, and there are obviously a lot of different opinions on this one. There are two sides to the story, as always. One of them, and certainly if you talk to somebody, for example, like Todd Kelly, who at the last round in New Zealand found himself in the middle of a slowing pack at higher speed under safety car conditions, is that you cannot afford to back off under the safety car to the extent that probably race control wants you to. And the reason for that is because the pit lane is open, people can jump you in the pit lane in the way that the stops are taken and the order shuffles out the other side. So on one hand, the track goes yellow, and on the other hand, the way the pit lane rules are, it encourages you to hustle the car along so that you don't drop a spot, which is the all-important thing in this business. The flip side to it, of course, is if you do close off the pit lane, as they do in some other categories of racing, then you cement the outcome of the race. Some of the random element disappears from that. And you also have a situation where you'll most likely trigger the majority of cars to pit at the one moment. It's a hot debate.
And if you haven't entered the competition yet, I'd encourage you to go to rpmlive.tv, click on the Zinger Hot Topic and lodge your topic, and Neil and I will discuss it at the next round. Here's the grid, the Talon Tough Tools grid for race 2 of 3, and they reflect yesterday's finishing positions.
And some small amendments to the outcome of the race yesterday as a result of various incidents that were later investigated that went on into the evening. Not major shuffling at the top of the pack, but certainly down the order. Max Wilson, for example, for his infringement down at turn 6, copped some additional penalty in terms of points. There's some trouble between Simon Wills and Mark Winterbottom. And there's Craig Lowndes down the order. Very disappointing for him because he had great car speed yesterday. He felt that he had a little bit too much understeer, which is not enough precision in terms of the steering in the front of the car and the grip at the front of the car to be able to maintain the pace of the 2 leaders, but certainly more than enough to be able to stay up near the sharp end. So we'll see what he can do from down the order today.
6 guys achieved their best result to date this year. Bargwanna, Bernard, Radicic, both Richards, Stephen and Jason, and Scape. This is an interesting story post-Pukekohe.
It's hard to imagine that this car looks the way it does at the moment, because only a couple of weeks ago it was basically a bag of nuts and bolts after this incident coming onto the front straight at Pukekohe. Contact between Craig Baird and Paul Dumbrell. Massive contact in dark conditions, a greasy track. The two of them touched, and Cameron McConville, also an innocent bystander in that one, made contact with the wall. And there's the car after a massive amount of work. If you extract the travel days for these cars and the time it takes to transit our country from East Coast to West Coast, they've had so little time to get the work done. They've done a monumental job, not only in that team, but in many of the teams, to be able to get the cars looking like they do and in full pristine race condition, ready for this round 3 of the championship.
And look at this front row. Ford's #1 man, Holan's #1 man. The revs rise here in the West. Race 2. Does Scaife get a good one? It's a drag race. Ambrose moves over on him. Scaife may just have enough. No, he doesn't. They touch. Oh, they touch big time.
2 of them are off. No one wanted to yield there, and so that's the day done for them. Ambrose is going to get away with it out to the outside on the firm ground. Scaife buried.
Boy, oh boy. That was a real arm wrestle. And Scaife is now beached. That will bring out a full course yellow. He is in a precarious position. And yes, the yellow flies already.
Be interesting to see a replay of the start there, guys. I was watching right from the start-finish line, and it looked like Scaife, albeit briefly, maybe double dip just to try and get some traction again. Ambrose got the better launch. Scaife struggled away, and maybe that's when things started to go pear-shaped as they argued over that run into turn 1.
Huge win for Paul Radicic. Radicic jumps from 8th, or 6th rather, to 2nd. We're under yellow though, and they will compact. They'll slow down and take a breather after a ferocious start.
Stephen Richards will be, he'd be barely able to contain the laughter at the moment. Radisich second, Murphy third, Ingle fourth, Jason Richards, Cam McConville, Paul Morris, Stephen Johnson.
Scafe, you win, mate.
And Jason Bargwana. Here's the Zinger replay. Let's have a look. Scaife had to double dip, as Greg said. It jumped, and then he relaunched it. Very hard from this angle to tell exactly where they are in relative terms to each other, but they've interlocked, locked brakes. Marcus couldn't turn in, and the net result is that Marcus gassed it up and went round the outside. On board with Mark Scaife. Let's have a look here. He's down the right-hand corner. In fact, oh dear. So hard to work one like that out without all of the information. But he was at the right rear of Marcus's car, and Daryl's on the spot.
Yeah, Neil, I'm having a look at Marcus's car here. The damage, you see where the contact started. Looks like it started right at the front of Marcus's door there because the mirror's broken. So it's a fair way up the inside of that car. The other point was Stephen Richards now out there leading that race. That car had a lot of smoke coming from it yesterday.
And Stephen Richards yesterday, late in the race, appeared to have excellent car speed, notwithstanding the oil smoke problem that we've detailed. It didn't affect the car speed at all. He was very strong, and I think he's going to be pretty hard to touch in this one today. Longer race, races 2 and 3.
Mark Scaife climbs from the car.
And a pit lane penalty, a black flag for Marcus Ambrose, being advised at the moment by race control. Lane speeding, no, for a driving infringement, I understand.
Hey Marcus, got a black flag. I want you to come through the pit and get your drive through out of the way now. Must be some free sand onto the track, so come through the pit and drive through, Marcus. Drive through this lap.
So the Castrol Perkins leads the way with Stephen Richards at the helm. For Paul Radisich and Team Kiwi Racing, Paul insisted that team owner David John made the trip over from Auckland. David John was keeping a watchful eye on the budget and said, if I don't need to be there, perhaps I won't. We can save a little money there and help the team out more. He did make the trip because Radisich was positive he could do well. And this is Ambrose performing his drive
okay.
through.
You'll catch the back of those guys pretty quick, mate. Just relax. Just watch your language on the radio, mate. Keep cool.
Fastest man on the track is Stephen Richards, a 57.3 on the last lap. Jason Bright's done a fast first second.
Stop the radio, mate. That is crap.
So Marcus unhappy camper.
Calm down, mate. You'll be right.
Race director Tim Schenken has been on the radio too, Neil. He has advised that the compulsory pit stop window will now open on lap 9 after that race stoppage there, or after the stoppage for the Scaife Ambrose incident.
Yeah, they extend it whenever the safety car takes control of the field, if it's before the original deployment time, which was the window opening at lap 5. So margin now 0.3 between Stephen Richards, Paul Radisich, and Stephen on that lap actually lost a little bit of ground to Paul Radisich. That's a good car, isn't it?
Yeah, very good. And Radisich dominated here in 2001 back in the Dick Johnson Racing Ford. Now in a Holden, what can he do? We'll find out after we hear from Daryl.
Mark, I guess I don't really have to ask the question.
Oh, look, Daryl, I mean, I didn't make the greatest start, but we both didn't make great starts, and certainly the cars were still overlapping. And when Marcus was pushing me across into the grass, the wheels caught, so that my left-hand front and his right rear. But at that stage, you know, we're supposed to be driving down to the first corner. Even if they had 1 millimetre of overlap, you can't crowd the bloke. So, very disappointing. I mean, it's one of those ones that changes the championship, that sort of stuff.
What do you do from here? Do you just keep your mouth shut and walk away from it, or you have a word to him about it? What do you do?
Oh, well, I mean, he got a drive-through penalty, but it means nothing, does it, you know? So, for us now, we have to repair the car and press on with it. But, I mean, very disappointing. It's one of those ones where, you know, we're in a position to win this weekend, and those sorts of things, you know, knock you around.
Thanks for your time, mate.
Thanks, mate.
And it'd be interesting to find out whether the Ambrose penalty is for depositing sand on the road, or in fact they have made a judgment about the way that they both approached turn 1 and whether they felt that he was crowding Scaife. It's so difficult to assess it without all of the angles, and you can sit down and go through them frame by frame. Initially it looked like Ambrose had a lot more of the car on the road as now Radisich peels off. But if he was crowding and Scaife was off to the grass, as Mark just said a minute ago, then that's another issue again. So I'm sure this one will get argued about as well along brand lines. Holden and Ford fans will have their viewpoint for sure.
And I know that we said at the top of the show that the pit window opened at lap 5. But if there is a caution period before the 5th lap of the race, then that window gets extended. It opened at lap 9. Here's Ingle.
Wait.
Boys, 7.4 seconds is what it took for Paul Radicic to complete the stop. He came in ahead of Russell Ingle. Tight on the exit there on the way out with those guys. And the word from some of the officials I'm getting here in pit lane, Neil, is that the flag for the drive-through for Marcus Ambrose is associated with the incident, not the sand.
Okay, well, that does clarify it. So in the opinion of the investigating and prosecuting officer, Marcus was crowding Scaife on the run to turn 1, and it's a penalty for that, not for depositing sand, which was one of the early messages that we got.
And that's why you heard Ambrose so heated on the radio. Radicic pitting, that opens it up for Greg Murphy. That's why he's popped up into second. Behind Stephen Richards, there's a lengthy gap back to Jason Richards, who started the weekend in 17th as we ride with Stephen Richards.
56.7, Greg Murphy, fastest man on the racetrack. And he did it on that last lap. Last lap for Richo was a 6.9. 6.9 also for Jason Richards.
I asked Jason Richards earlier this morning, I said, what's the difference this weekend, mate? And he said, look, it's the first weekend all year that everything's in harmony. Me, the car, the team, we're perfect.
Marcus Ambrose has rejoined and is back in 20th at the moment. He's just set the fastest lap of the race at 56.7. Trouble here with Simon Wills making contact with Matthew White. Wills copped a penalty, I think, yesterday from memory.
Yeah, he did. 23 seconds. Yes. It was involving an incident with Mark Winterbottom. So they rejoin. The Brightech Ford, the Fujitsu Ford, Matthew White, who had a great run in the final race at the Clipsal 500 earlier this year.
And Murphy's further lowered the fastest lap of the race now to a 56.69. Richards is the leader, 0.5 of a second.
So this battle continues on, but that is well down the order. Meanwhile, we climb on board the Super Cheap Auto Racing Commodore with Greg Murphy. And a reminder to you, for all of you who have spent more than $30 at a Super Cheap Auto store and have already entered the V8 Muscle Car Mania Comp, here's your chance for some bonus entries. I'm sure you know the deal by now. Simply SMS the code, which is this weekend Holden, on Murph's Dash, as you can see, as many times as you want. The numbers for our Australian viewers, SMS 1977 5151, and for all of our New Zealand viewers, SMS 8844. Good luck. You can SMS it as many times as you like. And this week's winner will get an opportunity to be a part of Super Cheap Auto's pit crew for round 5 in Shanghai. So a great prize.
Lowndes is 8th at the moment, so he continues to march through this field. Still got a lot of work to do. Needs to negotiate Whincup, Bright, Johnson, McConville, Jason Richards, Murphy and Stephen Richards. And Murphy's still got good speed in this car. He's stalking Richards here. There was trouble yesterday between Greg Murphy and Todd Kelly at turn 1. And in fact, a little bit of aggravation last night as Kelly wanted to take the issue further in terms of the contact with Murphy, but nothing further was done about that. Here's the order. There's Lowndes. Besnard and, should I say Bernard and Baird 9th and 10th, and Murphy's now peeled off.
Some relief for the WPS crew to see both their cars into the top 10, but the pit stop shuffle is happening. Second car in pit lane.
Well, Murphy's in, everything's going pretty much to order, but Neil, you think about that car that had such a great victory in New Zealand, and this team's still running the old 18-degree engine in that car, so pretty impressive.
This is another one like Simmons Plains last year, where Murphy's just continuing to soldier on. He was 24th fastest on Friday, only 9th in qualifying, although he was surprised that he could hold his position in the shootout. Then he ended up 8th, finishing 5th in race 1. Trouble here between Winterbottom on the inside and Brad Jones battling there as well. But Bradley gets through. And Murphy's got a good race car now. They've continued to chase the setup. And he's back in business here. And speaking of back in business, the steering arm repaired on the HRT car.
Turn the indicator off.
He rejoins out of the game, but may be classified as a finisher.
Sure.
If he can, depending on how many laps he's lost on the leader.
Everything counts in this championship. Race leader, Stephen Richards is in. Serviced and gone. Stephen Johnson inherits the race lead. He was incidentally fastest after the 2-hour practice session on Friday. They changed an engine on Friday night. He started down the order after qualifying yesterday in 20th position, came up to 11th. And the two West Point Fords, he and Glenn Seaton, having a reasonably strong run.
Stephen Richards' stop was 4.18 seconds. Lee, the Castrol crew doing a brilliant job in and out of the lane like lightning. But the drama was for the Tasman Motorsport crew. Car 3, Jason Richards, they were just a little too soon on the removal of the air, and it landed back on the deck without the front right wheel, or front left wheel, I should say, properly on. They had to put it back up again and refasten it. 9 seconds for the Tasman crew.
Here's the Zinger replay. This is why we've got a new race leader now, though. It's Greg Murphy.
Yeah, tangle down here at turn 7. We don't know how that really unfolded, but we saw the aftermath, and problems here for Paul Wheel departing the pit lane together with Todd Kelly, who made contact with Jason Richards, and around they both go. Damage on the Jason Richards car, and he's sandwiched in between first and second at the moment, but has managed to stay out as the safety car pulls off once again, and we go racing.
And Murphy is the race leader simply because of the pit stops. He got out quicker, did it a little better than the Castrol Perkins Commodore of Stephen Richards and his crew. So Murphy leads the way. Richards has got by Jason Richards, who is now a lap down, courtesy of that incident with Kelly. Radicic is third. There is Russell Ingall fourth, and Stephen Johnson is fifth, but he is being hassled and hustled by Craig Lowndes. That is a very gritty comeback from where he ended up yesterday.
Stephen was mighty quick on Friday here and led the timesheets at the end of the first day as Paul Radicic runs down the inside of the lapped Jason Richards. So awkward because Jason's got a pretty quick car, although I reckon it's got a bent steering arm in it, which will be making it a bit harder for him to drive. But they changed engines after Friday night in the Stephen Johnson car, and he's been a bit unimpressed with the torque and power delivery of the new engine in the car. Said it was a bit average yesterday, but he's worked his way back into a pretty competitive position at this point.
He's under siege though, isn't he? Look at Bright. Bright tries to make a move on Lowndes. He's lining up for a shot. Rick Kelly has come alive suddenly in the weekend, and he's hassling Jason Barguana. Talking with Dean Orr from Dick Johnson Racing, he said that Stephen Johnson's engine was around about 4 kilometres an hour slower than his previous one, and Stephen said, I'm struggling out of corners. I can't climb out and go with these guys. So far, though, he's defending well.
Lowndes 6th, not a bad recovery. Then Bright, Barguana, Rick Kelly, Paul Wheel, Paul Morris, Cam McConville, John Bowen, Glenn Seaton, Max Wilson, David Bernard, Brad Jones, Mark Winterbottom, Baird and Ambrose. So Ambrose is just in the 20 now.
Neil, you're right about Jason Richards. That steering wheel of his is a quarter of a turn out of centre, so he has got some steering dramas. And there has been radio chat between various engineers warning some of the drivers about possible oil. We've got a drama here coming onto the front straight.
Big drama, and it's Rick Kelly. He and Paul Morris came together.
It started when Paul was coming down the inside of the road, down the main straight on the dirty side, and he locked up viciously on the dirty part of the track. And then that scrambled the pack a little bit on the exit. They made contact, and Rick was the loser.
Was able to get going again. How much?
That's what happens when we ain't got the car to pair out.
Comment from Rick Kelly there. Just about to say it'd be interesting to see what damage is done to Paul Morris's tyres. It was a massive lock-up. Zinger replay shows us.
Yeah, massive lock-up because he was on the dirty side of the track. And then when they came out the other side, Morris moved to the right, and one of the Gary Rogers cars got into the back of Rick Kelly and turned him around. I'm not sure which of the GRM cars that was, whether it was Cam or whether it was Andrew Jones.
McConville was in the order. That's exactly where he was. Johnson still ain't being able to hold off Lowndes. Anthony Tratton, the Toll Commodore's gone, and he will be stuck.
Yeah, look, he picked up the throttle then.
Stuck, Jody, mate. Just turn it off. You're stuck. You have to wait for assistance.
Ready for another yellow? We see it here at Barbagallo all the time. It's the nature of the circuit with the sandy surrounds.
And Mark Skate was on the phone then back to, oh, here we go, here's the replay. So Tander actually went to the left a little bit then under brakes and touched Anthony Tratt. And Mark Skate was behind them, and he's giving a full rendition on the radio at the moment as to what happened, but we can see it pretty clearly in this case.
So both HSV dealer team Commodores involved in incidents on the same corner, same lap. And the third time today we see the safety car, the WPS safety car, on the circuit.
Well, this gives you a bit of an idea with Mark Scaife's incident with Marcus Ambrose. The steering arm on that car, the breakage there, where it just breaks on the back of the thread on that, and then the wheel here where it makes contact with the back of Ambrose's nuts, taking a big chunk out of it. Mark's still reporting back to the team that car's got tow out. They said, Mark, just get around, save the tyres, don't destroy them. And they got him softened off the bars, Cromley, just to try and get around and not flat spot any tyres.
It looks pretty severely bent there too, Darryl, so it's steering arm's had a big wallop. I thought you were going to give us a sermon there for a moment.
Talk about a good comeback. Sitting in the order in 9th position is Paul Wheel, the race leader's teammate. Here's a Zinger replay. Marcus Ambrose is in the middle of something here with, this is David Bernard.
So Bernard and Ambrose just disputing positions. Sometimes what happens when the safety car comes out, both drivers will have opposing views about who should have been where in the queue, depending on at the precise trigger point of the safety car. So it looked like they were just trying to sort that out.
Just to update you on Craig Lowndes' situation during the last break, he pitted a stop of about 4.8 seconds, changed rear tyres on the 888 car, and interesting to note some of the little technical advances that the teams are opting for now, with these stops requiring in some cases only 2 tyres to be changed. The air jacks now, a lot of them have switched to a system that puts the back of the car up, relying on jacks at the back of the car only, not the front, to speed that pit stop up. But concern from a number of the crew chiefs in pit lane that the 888 car may have been leaking some oil. There was a small trickle of it in Lowndes' pit box as he left the pit lane. Word from Campbell Little is, despite the concerns of others, there is no dramas with Lowndes' car.
Todd Kelly obviously with radio issues there, the team using the pit board and some information through to him. Also, that spin he had earlier, I don't know if it had anything to do with it. That team went with 2 new tyres down the left-hand side of that car, not on the rear.
Brakes will go, Kate.
Okay.
There's 20 laps to go, exactly 20 laps to go when we go green.
Something's just broken at the back of Murphy's car.
Murphy's just complaining he's got something broken in the back of his car. He's just the leader of the crew, so just watch what happens.
Campbell Little talking to Craig Lowndes, and meantime Greg Murphy's describing something going on at the back of the car.
So the win here at Barbagallo may elude. You just saying Axel?
That's what he's saying, yeah. I've been listening to him for a minute.
Coming in.
The lights are out on the safety car, so we'll see what happens when he stands on it and whether he's got a race car he can do anything with. Is he actually coming in? Yes.
Yeah, he is. He's following the safety car in, so it's all over for Murphy. Richards inherits the lead again. Radicic, Ingle, that's the top 3. Johnson defensive on the inside. What a crushing blow for Greg Murphy. Leading and leading well, but his teammate Paul Wheel is flying the flag. He started 27th, he now runs 8th.
That's unbelievable for Murphy, isn't it? It's very unusual for something weird like that to unfold with no load on the car during the safety car period, so it keeps all dropping nicely into Stephen Richards' lap here. Scaife and Ambrose took care of themselves down at turn 1 on the first lap, and now Greg Murphy's disappeared.
Two severe blows, Neil, to Murphy. You remember the gearbox went at the Clipsal 500 when he was running in the top 6, and now this while he was leading.
In the car, mate, guys, even if we've got to go out just to do the last lap, we'll still finish the race.
So the Super Cheap Auto Racing crew looking under the back of the car, spinning wheels, checking axles, looking at diff housings, Watts linkages.
Just when it was there for Greg Murphy. Look at Ambrose push his way through.
And they're cautioning Marcus on the radio at the moment just to be careful as you try and make your way through. He's 14th. So, and you know what, 14th is worth quite a lot of points,
yeah,
the way the championship works. So he's going to make the best of a bad situation here.
Just leapfrog Max Wilson to make that 13th. Now he's sizing up Glenn Seaton. He has got a lot of speed in the Pertec Ford. And immediately ahead, the BOC car of Brad Jones. Rather take that back, John Bow. He's trying every line, outside, inside. Ambrose is on the attack.
He needs to go back to the race line, which he's done here, because then he could crisscross him on the exit, but he's actually a bit mispositioned there at the moment. He actually dropped the spot, did he, or not? No, he just got up the outside, didn't quite work. If everybody ends up driving down the dirty line down there, eventually it's actually better to go back the other way and see if you can outsmart him on the exit.
This is the scrap.
Keep it clean, Marcus, keep it clean.
For the final spot in the top 10, the Strathfield update shows you where they are. It's Richards, Radisich, Ingle, Johnson, Lowndes, Bright, Wheel, Bargwanna, Morris, McConville. That's the 10.
Matthew White going off here. I'm not sure whether he's pushed or whether he just ended up running out of grip. There'll be a lot of dirt and garbage on the road. And
Jason Richards lucky.
Very lucky not to end up nailing him.
It's all falling apart in the closing laps.
Real shame for Paul Radisich. Has he flat spotted a tyre? Does he have another mechanical problem, or are the tyres past their best? 12 tyres allocated this weekend, that is 3 sets, and different people will use them in different ways. Some will have chosen perhaps to go in after the compulsory stop to go onto the fresh set of tyres in this second segment of the race, but there are others that may choose to use their older tyres, so they've got the better set left for the last of the 3 races. And tyre strategy is an important part of understanding how to get an outcome in these championship races.
Just spoke to Paul Sepranich, Neil. Sorry to do that to you. Spoke to Paul Sepranich at Team Kiwi Racing. He says that there's been no radio chat with Paul in relation to a tyre drama, but they would not rule out a flat spot. He may have flat spotted tyres right now.
The man you saw on screen was David John, Team Kiwi Racing's owner. And he was crossing his fingers, hoping for the Rat to get there in these closing laps. Look at this. This scrap has been going on for a long time. It's Stephen Johnson in the West Point Ford versus the better electrical 888 machine of Craig Lowndes. And Johnson, as he said, with an underpowered engine, he's done a great job to defend.
Yeah, they're quite good mates, these two. Last night they were chatting together in the paddock. And a few concerns there at Stephen Richards' pit. Don't know why. He's got a 4.1 second margin at the moment.
In the background was Jack Perkins, son of Larry, the team owner.
Larry's not here this weekend, but Jack's flying the family flag.
So this is it, the run to the flag. The last handful of laps. There is the lead margin. Russell Ingall sits in a very strong second place. And look at this. Paul Wheel, Marcus Ambrose. Ambrose has been flying, setting the fastest lap for late in the race. His personal best times. He's been carving up the field.
4 laps to go.
And Wheel is the next one on his list, but Wheel's done a great job. 27th to 5th. Behind these boys, Bright, Radisich, McConville and Bargwanna, the top 10.
Ambrose continues to march forward. He's 6th, can you believe it? After having to run round the outside of turn 1 in the grass, then taking a drive-through penalty for the contact with Mark Scaife at turn 1. And he's just been hammering away with car speed to burn. At times he's been 4 or 5 tenths of a second quicker than anybody else in the field.
Well, Murphy spent some times in the pits earlier. They took, like Neil thought, they replaced that right rear axle on that car. They took the axle out of it, but it left the spline of the axle down in the middle of the hub. So Murphy's been out there doing consistent laps, very, very slow, obviously, just on one axle in this car, driving off one wheel. He's sitting in the pits now, and will go back out just to gain points.
And I think this is car number 44. Yeah, it's Simon Wills. There's something dragging underneath that car.
It's the oil cooler arrangement, Neil, for some reason. He's been off a couple of times up toward turn 7 there. It's hanging on by a number of the wires and cables, and of course the various piping, etc., that funnels it all through there. So Simon in pit lane at the moment. Tough weekend for them.
And the problem is they raised the height of the curbs here several years ago, and if you climb over them, it's real easy to drag an oil cooler and all the associated lines off that. But it looked like there was some brake ducting and other stuff down there as well. It looked like it was just basically catastrophe unfolding underneath that car.
Russell Ingall running some new decals this weekend. Star Day, that is, of course, in line with the Starlight Foundation, who is Caltex, his official sponsor. It is their charity. So Russell doing his bit and doing his bit on the track, because he was only 46 points behind Ambrose coming into this race. Valuable points here to run second. And he'll take the challenge to his teammate at the top of the championship order. And Stephen Richards, there's plenty to celebrate, and we've finally had a change of third place. Lowndes has finally got through, so too has Ambrose on wheel. And the Ambrose assault is not over yet.
It's 5th at the moment, so it's Stephen Richards, Russell Ingall, Craig Lowndes, Steve Johnson, Marcus Ambrose. Marcus did a 57.7 on the last lap. Richo did a 57.6, 7.5 for Ingall, 8.7 for Stephen Johnson, but he was tangled up with traffic. But the real gains from Ambrose have been in the mid-sector of the race.
Stephen Richards, very good friends with former World Motocross #2, Jeff Leask, who, of course, is a famous West Australian. Jeff's here today, and we'll be very pleased to see Stephen Richards pick up his win if he can hang in there for just a few more moments. This has been a mighty drive from Marcus Ambrose, but it's going to be Stephen Richards spoils. Scaife did it yesterday in race 1, but it's Stephen Richards, his first win in 4 years. Well done to the Castrol Perkins pilot. Ingall second and Lowndes third, which puts him in a very strong spot. Top 5 for the DJR West Point Ford of Stephen Johnson and Marcus Ambrose from last to 5th. Good on you, Stephen. Nice work.
Great drive, wasn't it? There'll be some tales told at the end of this one, though. Murphy's story will be what could have been.
Yes.
And great frustration for Scaife and HRT. Marcus is on fire, and I'm sure he and his guys will feel that things weren't right for them, but he stormed back through the field. You can tell by the body language right now that he's not happy about the way things unfolded. So a spirited brawl into the first turn for him, saw a penalty. Here's the unofficial results.
The VB scoreboard hands the win to Richards. The podium getters Ingall and Lowndes. And Stephen Johnson, his equal best result of the year for the DJR West Point Ford. His father and team will be pleased. Ambrose wheel, 27th to 6th, good effort. And Bright had a solid drive as well. What happened to Paul Radicic? We'll have the answer for you. McConville and Bargwanna, solid points there in the top 10. Congratulations to those guys. The WPS Ford of David Bernard in 12th behind John Bowe. And Glenn Seaton, a top 15 result.